Welcome everyone to MEternal. This is our first official virtual workshop and training that we're going to be doing today with Zan Kaufman, who is a certified sleep expert and owner of My Baby Sleepology and the Pediatric Sleep Academy. And we're also joined today by Dr. Pierre Louis from Gotham Health. She is a pediatrician and she's joining us today to create an opportunity for women to learn sleep solutions for their family. And there's just some sleep best practices so that the mom and the baby is having a better overall experience in its entirety, right? So welcome, ladies, for joining the MEternal virtual sleep event today. Happy to have you here. And I'm just going to start with Zan. I'd like you to tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background, and then we're going to go on to Dr. Pierre Louis.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you, Kenya, for the intro already. And hello, everyone. As Kenya said, my name is Zan, and I am the founder of My Baby Sleepology. I'm super excited to be here today, joined by Dr. Pierre Louis, and chatting with you all about sleep. To add to what Kenya said, between myself and 6 other moms who work with me directly on my team, we have successfully worked with thousands of families across the world, and they all have different cultural backgrounds, parenting styles, pride tolerances, you name it. So we have truly seen and heard it all. And we also have a deep understanding knowing that every parental experience and child dynamic can be very different with their own challenges and issues. So what we do at My Baby Sleepology is work with families to come up with a plan that they are comfortable with and help them to take the guesswork out of the sleep training process using a proven methodology that's based on the science behind sleep. So when you lean on the science, you can't go wrong. So it really does work time and time again. And I can't tell you guys how much we have heard, "You have saved my life. You have saved my marriage. I feel sane again." And I'm just excited. I think we have a really great opportunity today to discuss the unique scenarios that moms and families are experiencing and to help debunk some of the myths about sleep training, and to also help everyone who is listening and everyone here to solve some of the most common sleep issues, because sleep is so important. We all need it to function our best, and our children need it so that they can grow and thrive. So for my part in all of this, I will be asking some questions, engaging with Dr. Pierre Louis, and just chatting a lot about sleep.
Awesome. So Dr. Pierre Louis, can you just share a little bit about your background and what you do at Gotham Health?
I was born and raised in Haiti, as I said before. I came here when I was 18. I went to college here at City College, and I went to medical school at Temple University in Philadelphia. And I did my residency and internship at Montefiore Medical Center. And I've been a pediatrician over 25 years. I have worked for, it was Cumberland then now it's Gotham Health. I've been here for about 15 years, and it's been a great experience so far. I would like to thank Dr. McMillan who has asked me to participate in this event. And I want to thank Nancy Ramos, who came here to help me, and Nash Dunlap. I'm very excited to be here because listening to what Ms. Kaufman had to say, Zen. I'm sorry. I don't know if I should call you Zen. I don't know how to.
Zan is great.
Zen is fine. Okay. And I think I'm really going to learn a lot from this. And I also have some questions. So I'm very excited to be here as well.
Awesome. Awesome. And I want to make sure that we also introduce one of our mothers that's here today, Sana. She's going to be participating in the workshop. Sana, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you expect to get from today and how you think it's going to help other moms out there?
Sure, that's my little one. So my name is Sana. I'm a second-time mom. Our first child is almost 5 years old, and our youngest son just turned a month old. So it's been a little while since we went through all of these stages and phases. And I know no 2 children are alike. So I'm just looking for any strategies as, as he continues to develop and he can handle more as far as managing day and night, just to make sure that, I'm trying everything that I can to maintain my proper sleep, dad's sleep, and everyone in the house, so we can just be able to function as best as we can. So I'm really excited to be here, learn any more strategies, I guess, talk about things that I've been doing or thinking about doing, just to see if they sound right.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, we're happy to have you today. We're happy to be hosting this in partnership with Metro Plus Health Plan and Thinks. So just a little brief overview of MEternal. The reason why we're doing this workshop today is it's part of the overall MEternal platform. So what we decided to do about 6 months ago is launch a program, or launch a platform rather, to serve women of color, mothers of color, in the Black maternal health space, because it's a crisis that's going on in the country right now. We wanted to make sure that we were a resource and we were a solution to all the mothers that are out there. So that is what MEternal is all about. And you're going to be able to find all different types of content up there on the meternal.info website. But I want to make sure that we kick this off, and I'm going to turn this over to Zan and let you take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Kenya. So I would love to kick it off by asking Sana, that's how you say your name, right?
Yeah.
What your main sleep struggles are, and remind me how old your littlest is. So is it placing your baby down fully awake? Is it night wakings, early rising, short naps? Like, what would you say is your top 2 sleep struggles right now?
At this point, he loves to sleep during the day. So I guess it's like keeping him engaged during the day so that he can learn day versus night.
Okay.
And then at night, it's usually like around like midnight that, once he's fed around that time, he's just up for a while. So It's like getting him settled back down around 11 p.m. midnight. And then after that, he's pretty good. And he's up when, I need to be up and we have to get our day going anyway in the morning. So really, it's just getting him to go back to sleep after his 11 p.m. or 12 p.m. feeding.
Okay.
And then just keeping him engaged, I guess, during the day, or like the appropriate naps that he should have at this point. He's only a month old. So.
Okay. Oh my goodness. So fresh. So fresh. So that's amazing. So for newborns right now, what you're going to be focusing on is awake windows. So making sure that he is not getting overtired. And I'm going to share my screen in a second to dig into the main culprits of sleep issues. But at this age, for an itty bitty little newborn, you want to focus on awake windows. So at 4 weeks old, that awake window will be somewhere between 45 to 60 minutes. And I would say right now, you will want to try to wake him up after a 2-hour nap so that you can help correct his days and nights, because when he was inside the womb, you were walking around and rocking him to sleep all day. And then at night, when you were laying down, he was up partying. So we need to help correct that for him. And we can do that by capping naps at 2 hours, getting him out in the natural sunlight as much as possible throughout the day. And then at night, we want it pitch black and keep those feedings all about business, no real interaction. But his days and nights should be sorted out within the next, I would say 2 to 3 weeks. It's usually corrected around the 6-week mark if you are doing all of those things to try to help him to be able to decipher the two. Now, what I'm going to go through is going to be applicable for a 16-week baby and older. So you can officially sleep train at the 16 weeks from your baby's estimated due date. That is when they've hit the 4-month sleep regression, their sleep cycles have matured, their 3 naps have formed, and we can really get them on a schedule and they're developmentally ready to be sleep trained. So the 4 main things are going to be that your child could be overtired, that they don't know how to self-soothe, that they have discomfort, or maybe they're hungry, which I think Dr. Pierre-Louis could help shed some light on how many ounces that a pediatrician wants a baby who is 16 weeks and older to get, which we'll get into in a little bit. But the first 2 are the most common: overtiredness and a baby doesn't know how to self-soothe. So as far as overtiredness is concerned, it is the #1 cause of sleep issues. So if I could leave you all with one tip today, it would be to make bedtime earlier if you are experiencing any sort of nighttime sleep issues. Now, For your little baby, Sana, bedtime should be somewhere between 8 and 11 p.m. So again, this will be applicable at 16 weeks and older. But what happens when a child gets overtired is cortisol is secreted in their brain, starts flowing through their body, which is a stress hormone and a stimulant, and causes a child to go into fight or flight mode. So sleep begets sleep. That's what I always tell my clients. The better they sleep during the day, the better they're going to sleep at night. If they don't nap well during the day, what parents need to do is make bedtime earlier so that they're not getting overtired. So a child being overtired will trigger night wakings, early rising, short naps, and it just being difficult for them to learn how to sleep overall. The next thing is going to be that a child simply does not know how to self-soothe. So believe it or not, babies are not born knowing how to self-soothe and sleep independently. This is something that more often than not does have to be taught. And teaching self-soothing really comes down to two key things. The first thing is going to be timing, and the second thing is consistency. So as far as timing is concerned, we want to make sure that they're going down at the optimal time every single day for their naps and every single night at bedtime based on how well they napped that day. So it might be a little bit of a moving target when parents first begin the process, but the ultimate purpose is getting them on a more predictable and consistent schedule. But if they miss that optimal window, it's going to make it really difficult for their baby to sleep soundly. The second thing is going to be consistency with your chosen sleep training method. We will walk through the different methods in a little bit, but sleep training does not mean that parents have to go with the cry it out method where they place their baby down and don't go back in until morning. A lot of people think that's the case when it's not. There are other methods to choose from. Now, if all or most of the work is being done for your child at the beginning of the night at 16 weeks and older, they're going to expect that same assistance that got them to sleep in the first place when they do naturally wake up in the middle of the night, which I think is another important thing for parents to know, is that we all wake up in the middle of the night. It's a natural thing, but we know how to sleep. We roll back over, we resituate ourselves on our pillow, and we go back to sleep. A baby is not born having that skill. So if we can teach them what to do at the beginning of the night, that will translate over through the rest of the night. So placing them down fully awake is going to be really important. And eliminating any sort of sleep crutch, such as feeding them to sleep, rocking them to sleep. A pacifier can totally be used. You just want to have a boundary around the use of the pacifier. The third thing, like I said, is discomfort. Teething and reflux are the two main sources of discomfort for a baby. Teething is the most painful, the 2 to 3 days leading up to a tooth popping through. You should typically be able to see swollen gums or little white nubs in your baby's mouth. But a lot of parents do blame teething as the reason that their baby is not sleeping well. So if that's you and it's been going on for a couple of weeks or months, it's not teething. We just need to teach your baby how to sleep well. And then the other thing, like I said, is reflux. We have worked with many babies with reflux. One of the key things that we can do for reflux babies is factoring in holding them upright as part of their bedtime routine. So if a typical bedtime routine is 15 minutes, but your baby has reflux, you might want to factor that in to be like a 45-minute bedtime routine so that you can hold them upright for 30 minutes. And then the last thing is hunger. I would like to kick it over to Dr. Pierre-Louis to let us know how many ounces she suggests or recommends a baby who is about 4 months and older to get in a 24-hour period.
And it would vary. 4 months to starting at 16 weeks, 4 months. It depends on the cultural background, first of all, and how well that baby has been eating from birth. But I would expect 4 ounces to 6 ounces every 4 hours. Now, things have changed because in the past 2 years, we used to start feeding at 4 months, but now we're not. So we're feeding at 6 months. When we did start like cereal, baby food around 4 months, we would decrease the amount of formula to allow the parents to increase the feedings. But now that we have push it back to 6 months, at 4 months, you would expect to give 4 to 6 ounces, I would say, every 4 to 5 hours. And I really talk to the parents about overfeeding, because you really want to make sure you're not overfeeding as well. And the way to realize that, if you just fed your baby and about half an hour to an hour later the baby is crying, the baby's not hungry. So you don't want to run to a bottle and try to feed the baby. The other thing also is to know how to burp the baby well in between feedings. That will also prevent the crying and the waking up and all that as well.
Okay.
So basically about 4 to 6 ounces every 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours is what we would recommend. Yes.
Okay. And what would you say is the average age that your patients' babies do not need a middle of the night feeding? I know that obviously there's a huge range there,
Right.
but do you have an average?
Right. I would say the average age, believe it or not, would be 4 to 5 months. I have parents who are very, very good, and starting at 2 months, they would tell me when they come for the 2 months visit already that the baby is sleeping through the night. But you see, there's a difference between the breastfed baby and the bottle fed baby.
Right.
Like for the breastfed baby, I would expect the baby to wake up maybe at least once a night for a feeding, because you're not sure exactly how much the baby's getting. But for
Exactly.
the bottle fed baby, I have had parents already at 2 months who would sleep through the night. But on an average, I would say 4 months to 5 months is when they would sleep through the night.
I'm
Yes.
right there with you. I'm glad we're aligned on that.
Yes. Yes.
We always tell our clients, if you are unsure, ask your pediatrician, because they know how much weight your baby is gaining. And a pediatrician can help to give them that confidence in their plan. So we always say, if a feeding is nutritionally necessary, by all means, that is fine. Or if it would make you feel more comfortable to have a feeding in because you're unsure, that's okay too. And we help our clients come up with a plan to easily wean their baby off of that middle of the night feeding when they're ready, or when the pediatrician says, okay, the baby doesn't need it. But we always say it's ideal to have a middle of the night feeding if it's a nutritional need versus a want. Because if they're waking up in the middle of the night and you're running in and feeding them 1, 2, 3 times a night when it's not necessary, then they're going to continue waking up, because their body is basically, well, one, it's programmed to consume those calories in the middle of the night. And the second thing is, that's the only way they're going to know how to get themselves back to sleep. So I'm glad we're aligned on that.
Yeah. And one more thing, talking about the waking up the night for the older babies. I had read somewhere that a long time ago, if you give them water, like when they are waking up in the middle of the night, instead of giving them the formula, you would give them some water, and it has worked for quite a few families. They will not get up to get water. After a few nights, they don't get up. So
yeah, they're like, I don't want this. This doesn't taste good. I'm just going to go back to sleep.
Yes.
No, that's awesome. Thank you for your input there. Sana and also Dr. Pierre-Louis, I would love to hear what your hesitations might be when it comes to sleep training, or what maybe your main questions about that would be. And also Dr. Pierre-Louis, what maybe your patients' biggest hesitations are around sleep training.
So now, why don't you go first? Because I'd like to hear from you.
Sure. I think for me, it's just making sure that we're consistent with the plan. Our first son was very easy. He was kind of like Dr. Pierre-Louis said, like, I think it was like 8 or 9 weeks. He was in the crib in his room and he would be asleep the whole night. But for some reason, this time around, it doesn't feel like that's going to be the case. So I think the biggest thing that we're fearing right now is just making sure that we're consistent, because we're both teachers, so we work during the day. So it's hard to I don't want to become one of those parents that like compromises our plan and now like he's in the bed with us or we're
Right.
feeding him to get him back to sleep because, you know, those are not the things that we have set in our mind. So we want to just make sure that like we're able to follow through on the plan like we did last time.
Hmm. And you know, as Zen was saying at the beginning, you know, the bedtime routine is very, very important. Your baby is only a month old, so as you and you may not remember, but for the older one, as you know, between 1 month and 2 months, so they're still in that old rhythm when you were pregnant, as Zen was telling you that during the night is when you were awake. I mean, when they were awake, when you were laying down. So the bedtime routine is very, very important for you to be consistent. So right now, if you are you breastfeeding or bottle feeding?
I'm doing both.
Or you're doing both?
Yes.
But do you find yourself that you have to wake up at night to feed him now or no?
Yes, he usually gets up
Okay.
around 2 or 3, and then he's up again
Okay.
around like 5:45.
And the most important thing about that waking up is to change him, feed him, and put him back to sleep because you want to teach him nighttime. And that's how you're starting the teaching. Because if you hold him and walk around, he doesn't know day and night. So if you're holding him and walking around and you're not putting him back to sleep, then he wouldn't know. So the least disturbing you do in that middle of the night, you just feed him, change him, and put him back to sleep. And that will help you. And that's what will bring him to start sleeping, you know, when he does not need that frequent feeding anymore during the night. You
Okay.
know?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love it. Thank you, Dr. Pierre-Louis. Do
Mhm.
you have a few things that maybe your patients come to you if you're talking to them about sleep training, what their greatest hesitations are?
Right. I have a patient right now. The mom is breastfeeding, and I find that I'm trying as much as I can to help her. So what I'm facing now with this parent, I think you're trying to teach them, and as I was telling Sana, that to do the least disturbing possibly in the middle of the night, and the self-soothe, like if they wake up, to let them, you know, soothe themselves and going back to sleep. So my biggest challenge with this mom has been the minute the baby wakes up, I think she can help it to get up and take him. And then the other thing is to feed him. I said, you're going to overfeed him. He's not hungry. Because even though, so that has been my, with this particular mom, you know. And I also have a 2-year-old, a new patient, and the mom told me that it's very difficult for her, for the baby to sleep. What we're facing right now as pediatricians, it's the time frame when you're seeing a patient. That was my first visit with that mom, and I still have her in mind because she's going to need some help. I don't know what the bedtime routine is, what has it been for the past 2 years. So I have to go back and ask, you know, the bedtime routine, what has the how well does the baby sleep at night for that 2-year-old. So those are my two families that I'm struggling with right now.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we tell our clients all the time is you are going to be so surprised at what just giving your baby or your toddler a little bit of space, what that will do instead of running in there as soon as you hear just waking up. And we call it active sleep. Active sleep is when a child is up, stirring, might even be yelling out in the middle of their sleep when they're not actually awake. So if you run in there, you're actually going to be waking your child up when maybe they weren't fully awake to begin with. So just giving our babies space and being consistent is so important. And also having a plan that you're comfortable with so that you can be consistent with all of that. We hear these things, I mean, all day, every day. I'd say some of our, the biggest hesitations that we hear are focused around parents' cry tolerances and their assumptions around sleep training, where they think, well, I can't put my baby down and let them cry all night for weeks on end. I just can't do it. When that's not going to happen. It takes a couple of nights for a baby to learn, but if you're getting them down in that sweet spot before they get overtired, that's going to make a world of difference. The other thing is they assume middle of the night feedings. I can't sleep train my baby because I refuse to remove all of the middle of the night feedings, where it goes back to, you can include a feed if your baby needs it, or if it would make you feel more comfortable. And then another thing that we actually hear pretty often is parents don't like the rigidness of sleep training. And we always tell them, listen, yes, the process, those first 2 weeks, it's going to feel a little rigid of like, oh my gosh, I have to get them down at this time every single day. I'm not going to have a life.
Right.
Where at the end of the process, parents are like, oh my gosh, like I feel free. Like I feel like I can plan things because my child is on a predictable schedule where I know they're going to nap at these times for this long. And I know what I can expect, where you can go on vacation anywhere and your child can sleep in a pack and play in a closet.
Yes.
Because they expect and they want their sleep at that point. So I do think it's important to acknowledge the freedom that sleep training actually gives parents. And we always say that sleep training is something that we do for our children, not to them.
Right.
When we're teaching them how to sleep, we're equipping them with the tools to be able to fall asleep quickly and easily and back to sleep seamlessly for any night wakings, which is going to lead to less fragmented sleep and really good quality sleep. So it's a short-term process, but it's purposeful. You know, it's for the ultimate purpose of getting them on a really solid schedule and establishing a really good foundation for them. I would love to walk through the methods real quickly so that people know some of the options outside of Cry It Out, where Cry It Out means you place your baby down fully awake, you leave the room, and you let them work it out till morning. You're not going back in there. And that's for parents that have a higher cry tolerance. The next method, which I'll say is probably the most popular method because it can really be modified to a parent's cry tolerance and how much crying they are comfortable with. So that's Ferber. Now you can start at lower intervals, you can start at higher intervals, but what you would do is, again, place your baby down fully awake, you leave the room, and if they start at an escalated cry, that's when you start the timer. You would go in there after the allotted time and you can console your child, you can touch them, you can rub their back belly, stroke their face, shush them for 1 to 2 minutes, and then you leave, and then you increase that interval. And you keep going in until your baby falls asleep. The following night, you would increase that interval. The goal in all of this is that you're getting your baby down better rested, they're getting some practice, and the time it takes them to fall asleep is going to get shorter and shorter and shorter, to the point where you place your baby down, like my child is literally in back of me sleeping right now already in 30 seconds. She was sleeping by the time her nanny got to the kitchen. You know, like your child is going to become that good of a sleeper and that confident as long as you can stick to it. But Ferber is great where you do increase those intervals slowly each night, to the point where you're not even going to have to go in there after a few nights because they're figuring it out. The next method is called pick up, put down, where you place your baby down fully awake, you leave the room, and as soon as they start crying, you go in there and you start consoling them. This is for parents with a low to no cry tolerance. So you would go in there almost immediately as soon as they started crying, console them for about 3 to 4 minutes or until they calmed. If they're not calming down, you can pick your baby up and you can hold them and shush them until they calm down. As soon as they calm down, you place them back down and you rinse and repeat that process until you can leave the room, until your baby is calm and comfortable, and you can walk out. Now, the final method is called chair method, and these are all methods for a baby. There are other methods that we use for toddlers and toddler beds. The chair method, you would put a chair that does not belong in the room next to your baby's crib, and you can sit there and shush them and say, it's night time, it's time to sleep. You're giving them more verbal reassurance, and you're sitting with them as they're working through it. And each night you would slowly move the chair towards the door until you're outside of the room. So those are the main methods that we talk through with our clients. And a lot of clients are like, you know what? I'm torn between these two. So if you're torn between two of the methods, we can also combine them and modify them to choose one that you feel comfortable with so that, again, you can be consistent with all of that.
I'd like to find out what Sana is doing now for her baby, the 1 month old.
Yeah. What did you do for your oldest child? I mean, I guess he was sleeping through pretty young.
Yeah. So for our first son, we did cry it out. And I think it took 3 nights. It was hard. It was hard listening to him cry, but we just, we put him down and then we went downstairs and, we finished up whatever we were doing. But you could still hear him, but we almost broke a couple of times. But after the first night, it was like, 5 minutes shorter the second night. And then the third night, it was just like a couple of minutes. And then it was like, we were done. So like, I guess because it worked, we were okay. But had it gone on for weeks and weeks, then we probably would have gave up. But it
won't go on for weeks and weeks, right? It's not going to. You nip it in the bud, you stay consistent, which you did, and it worked quickly.
Yeah, so, to this day, he loves his room. He loves his bed. He will not come into our room or our bed unless we're having like a special sleepover. Like he just has his room and he just loves it. So I'm hoping
he sounds like my oldest daughter, who is almost 7. She's like, and my middle daughter, so I have 3 girls. My middle daughter is 4, and she's the one who's like, want to have a sleepover? And my oldest daughter's like, no, absolutely not. Like, I want my sleep and you're going to keep me up. Right. But it's amazing what like establishing that foundation so young will do for a child and their entire life. I mean, you're constantly reaping the benefits of that. And Dr. Louis, Pierre Louis, I would love to hear what your thoughts are on sleep training in general, as far as like the impact that it has on the baby or the child and the parents. Like, what are your thoughts on the whole process?
Well, I think that it's a very, very important process, specifically for the parent, because as I told you, I have a 6-month-old now, and with this mom who is constantly tired, I think it's very important to really start early, the bedtime routine, very, very important to have a good bedtime routine. And then the second, I'm not so sure. I mean, I think I will let the parent choose which method is better for them. But as I explained to the parents, it's very important for the child's development in the future, and also for the parent. The more rested you are, the happier you are. And then also you're going to have a happier child too, and a happier baby. Yeah. So I think that the most important from the beginning is to decide, because everybody's situation is different. This is my situation, what is going to work for me. So that's what I've really encouraged for the parents to do.
Oh my gosh, you took all of the words right out of my mouth. I need not say any more. No, that's amazing. I am on the same exact page as you. Obviously, I'm super biased, but I see it time and time again. I know that it works, and I've seen the tremendous results of it. We have parents who are coming to us like on the brink of a nervous breakdown because mom and dad are not sleeping well and they're up all hours of the night, and their baby is fussier. Their baby a lot of the times is not eating well, or a toddler who is having tantrums all day long. At the end of the process, everyone, I mean, I have goosebumps right now. Everyone's happier because the parents are finally getting their, let's say 7 to 8+ hours of consolidated sleep at night.
Yes.
And their baby is getting the amount and the quality of sleep that they need to thrive as well. So we've heard parents say, I thought I had a happy baby before I started this, and now like I can't believe how much it's positively impacted my baby's temperament. Or like I said, the temper tantrums in toddlers. Babies start feeding better because they're not overtired. When they're overtired, a lot of the times they're like, shaking their heads a lot when they're feeding, and they just can't concentrate on consuming because they're just so overtired. We also hear about physical and cognitive developments of a baby who was not sleeping well. In the middle or towards the end of the training, they're like, he's crawling, he's walking, he started saying his first few words. So we hear it all. And a big thing we focus on at My Baby my baby sleepology as well is the overall health of the entire family. So yes, we care so much about the baby, but we also care so much about the parents and their overall health, because when parents are not getting the quality sleep that they need, I mean, we all know this when we have a tough night, no matter what the reason is, that we are not our best selves at work. You know, if I'm trying to communicate with a client and I'm like, oh my God, my brain, it's just not there today. Or if my 4-year-old wants to do it herself again, I'm like, nah, you know, like we just have a shorter fuse. So I think when we are better rested, we can just be better parents and just better people in general. But it's so important. I mean, for our mental health, for our child's overall health. And I think obviously it's important that it's something that is prioritized and that it is something that everyone can access. You know, you shouldn't not be sleeping because you can't access the help. So if you are having a difficult time getting your child to sleep well, reach out. I mean, I know that we have complimentary 15-minute phone consultations where you could just hear how we can help you in our different programs and what we really focus on, which you've heard a lot today. But maybe getting that customized help. Or reading a book, some blogs, anything like that. But sleep is something that can be controlled, and there's a ton of help and resources out there should you need it.
And I think one thing you had mentioned about the feeding, I think that was very important. I had one family, the mom was breastfeeding, but she was not producing enough. And so when she came to the clinic, I was asking her, how often do you breastfeed? You know, at the beginning, like for you, Sana, your baby is about a month old. So on demand at the beginning is, here we go again. On demand at the beginning, I'm sorry, is something that we do recommend, but as they get older, you do want to know how much you're producing. So I usually tell them, try to pump. So if you pump, so for one feeding, you would feed that baby with the bottle, and I want you to pump and see how much are you getting. So you have an idea that when you're feeding, how much you get. Because if that baby wasn't being fed properly during the day, at night, the baby is going to be hungry and is going to wake up. So that's one of the things. And that goes really for the exclusively breastfed babies, you know, that if you bottle feeding, you have an idea when they get how much they get from the bottle. But I think the feeding part, as you had mentioned earlier, is very important also. You know?
Yeah, for sure. And that's another question that we get asked is, well, I exclusively breastfeed. Can I sleep train? Absolutely, you can.
Yes.
You know, if your baby is gaining weight well, then you can do that. And if you are unsure about how much you are producing during the day, include a feeding until your baby is, say, 5 months old, and then they start sleeping through and they're telling you, I don't need this feeding anymore. So there are a ton of different ways to like customize it to what parents do feel comfortable with. So I think that this has been an awesome conversation. Sana, do you have any questions for us?
No, I can't think of any questions right now, but I think it was very helpful to hear like some things I could be doing now to prep him for when we're ready.
Yeah.
I was just about to tell you that. I was just about to tell you, since you say this baby is different from the first one, I think Zen has given you so many methods, so many ways in your mind. You should be like, okay, which type of baby do I have? And which method will work for this one?
Yes. And I never knew there was like different ways to sleep train. So that was very interesting to hear the different methods. And I could already see like myself using either a combination or just thinking like what's going to be the most appropriate one for us this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. And another thing that you can do is I love the newborn cuddles. If you love the cuddles, don't put too much stress or pressure on yourself to like put your baby down starting tomorrow. You don't have to do that. The first 12 weeks is the 4th trimester, where we're trying to replicate that womb environment, love our baby, cuddle our baby, nurture our baby, all the things. But at 12 weeks is a really good time to start practicing a little bit of independent sleep, where you start placing him down a little bit more awake, every week, a little bit more awake, so that by 16 weeks, when you can sleep train, he's used to going down awake, so that the process isn't as abrupt for him. So at 12 weeks, I do recommend practicing with about 2 naps a day. The first nap is the best nap to start with, and then pick another nap that day. And then maybe at the 14-week mark, you're doing 2 naps in bedtime. But just practicing that from 12 to 16 weeks will help him to catch on to things a lot faster. But don't stress anything between now and then.
Okay.
Zana, what is the latest time you would think? I usually tell my parents try not to have them nap after 4, after 5 p.m. What do you think? That has been my recommendation, you know?
Yep. So it depends how many naps they're on. If they're taking 3 naps, so at 16 weeks, that's when their 3 naps form. On a 3 nap schedule, we don't want them sleeping past 4:45.
Right.
So that you can protect their night sleep.
Right.
On a 2 nap schedule, their day sleep should be capped at 3:30. It really depends what your goal bedtime is. If you prefer an earlier bedtime of, say, 6:45, 7, I would cap their day sleep at 3:15. If you prefer a later bedtime of, say, 7:30, 8 o'clock, then you can cap the day sleep closer to 3:30. And then if they're on a 1 nap schedule, I would cap it the same at 3 or 3:30.
Okay. Good.
Yep. And then for a 3 nap schedule, we want to cap overall day sleep at 4.5 hours. On a 2 nap schedule, we want to cap day sleep at 3.5 hours. And on a 1 nap schedule, I typically it really depends the age of the child, but when they first transition to 1 nap, I would cap it somewhere between 2.5 and 3 hours.
Okay.
Good. Well, I learned a lot, and I don't even have any little babies anymore, but all good things. And I'm glad that we could put on this virtual workshop. I hope it's going to help a lot of mothers. I know it's going to help a lot of mothers. And, like I said earlier on in the event, that we need to just tap into MEternal.info. I got that right. MEternal.info. There's all this great information up there about the Black maternal health crisis. There's resources, there's solutions. We're doing everything that we can in partnership with Metro Plus Health Plan and things to make sure that mothers of color have resources, access, and information. So keep tapping in with us. We're going to be doing more events. And thank you, Zan, for your expertise. We appreciate you.
Yes.
We want to make sure that folks like you, get exposure and can help other people get trained in this space, because we know that there's a need. And the more people that can help, the merrier. And I just want to thank Gotham Health again, Dr. Pierre-Louis, for being a part of this. You were very insightful. And I know that a lot of the moms who are listening to this and watching this are going to get the help that they need. And I just want to thank you again, Sana, for participating in this workshop today. Hope it was helpful and insightful for you as well. So again, you can visit MEternal.info to connect with us there. And until next time, thanks for joining us.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It was so great to chat with and meet you all.
Thank you. Nice to meet all of you as well.